Well, I don't think Israel will have a license to do whatever it wants, because what will happen inevitably, and I think if I was an Iranian propagandist, I would be counting on this. Let's imagine that Israel moves against Hamas with its usual effectiveness, and they start winning, in a serious way, and the casualties mount. Well, it's a lot easier to take a victim appreciation stance against a power that's clearly winning. So Israel can't win without accruing losses along the way, because the more they manifest their military superiority, the easier it's going to be for those who cast the Palestinians as victims to gain the moral upper hand. And that doesn't mean I know what Israel should do, because I wish I had that wisdom. But what I would like to see happen, in the best of all possible worlds perhaps, would be for the signees of the Abraham Accords to say to Israel, privately first, we're not budging. And then maybe to take a foray into the public and say that. It would be lovely to see Saudi Arabia come out and say, we're going to continue the Abraham Peace Accord process. And then Israel could say, well, if the Abraham Accord holds and we have the probability of expanding it, we can take the risk of not being so devastating in our response to Hamas, and they could back off, but because there'd be a counter victory in it for them. And so I can't see a better pathway forward than that, and I think that's a potentially realistic pathway, especially because that would also have the side benefit of not allowing Iran to prevail. So that's the best I can do on how this might proceed in the most optimistic possible way. And I don't know if that's good enough or not.
On October the 7th, you tweeted, "Give them hell, Netanyahu, enough is enough," and you got some blowback for that, as everybody
a lot
says anything about this. Were you surprised by the scale of the blowback? Do you wish you'd phrased that tweet differently? Do you have any regrets about it?
Well, Twitter is a very complicated social media platform, and it's been difficult for me to learn how to use it wisely. And I'm not alone in that, because it's difficult to be wise on Twitter. Now, what I'm trying to learn is when a tweet is appropriate and when a long-form commentary is appropriate. And the rule, I think, is something like the higher the stakes, the more likely that the long-form commentary is necessary. And really, it would have been better had because I did release a YouTube video where I explained some of what we already talked about.
I saw it,
and that was received much better, let's put it that way, but it also gave me a chance to elaborate my argument. And so what it highlighted for me, and I felt, I was very taken aback by what happened in Israel. And I was also appalled because, in my estimation, it was unnecessary. As I said, the Abraham Accords could have been extended earlier, and maybe this wouldn't have been necessary. And so I allowed myself to express some sentiment at that point without providing context, and that wasn't as good as providing the context. And I'm rethinking Twitter overall at the moment about how to use it. Elon has taken off the character limit, and he's also made it possible to distribute video, and so it no longer has to be a place where impulsive exchanges can occur rapidly, and I'm trying to reconfigure how I use it. I'm much happier with the video. Now, I was upset because I had developed somewhat of a Muslim following on YouTube, and I was very happy about that. A lot of people on the Islamic side of the world were watching my biblical lectures, for example, and I've had extensive conversations with Muslims on my YouTube channel. And I burnt some of that up, and I'm not sure I did that. Well, I would say I'm certain I didn't do that in the most productive manner. And so, do I regret it? It would have been better to do the long form. to have done the long form to begin with, you know? And Twitter invites and rewards a certain amount of impulsivity.
First, let me start by saying that I personally admire Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I have watched many of his videos, and I clearly believe that he has done so much good to our world and to our society, at least from my own point of view. What he has been saying has been very, very helpful to a lot of people. I have even taken some of his advice that has helped me in my own life. But I also believe that as someone with virtues, as someone with a moral compass, when you do something wrong that people criticize, when you do something wrong that you reflected on and realized that maybe that wasn't the appropriate thing to do at that particular time, or after explaining yourself to people, you should also say, what I did, I thought was necessary at the moment, but after some reflection, I believe that that was wrong. You should not be dancing as Dr. Jordan Peterson was doing, trying to dodge a simple question. Do you regret what you did? And the answer should have been, yes, I do. If you think you actually regret, okay, or no, I don't. If you thought that there is no point for you feeling any regrets for what you did, and then follow that with your explanation. Now, no one has the right to force anyone to apologize if they thought they haven't done anything wrong. If someone decided to go blaming their errors on Twitter, if someone said Twitter is a very complicated place to be, or Twitter is a very difficult social media platform to use, what does that say about that person? I'm not yet trying to compare myself with Dr. John Peterson, because like I said before, or like I said earlier, he is a very respected person in our society. He has accomplished a lot. He has done a lot for people in our society. In fact, he has a very, very huge platform, both on YouTube and Twitter, and I guess Facebook. So he is really popular, and he is way, way more smarter than myself. That is for sure. But the thing is, you cannot make a mistake, or you cannot do something, right? You cannot do something, and when someone asks you whether you feel any remorse for what you did and for the amount of backlash that you got from something that you did, and your response is, well, you know, Twitter is a very complicated place to be, and I am still trying my best to learn how to use Twitter. And people be like, what do you mean by that? Are you a 2 years old? Are you a baby who doesn't understand consequences? Are you a baby who doesn't understand that actions have consequences? Is that what you're trying to tell us here? How can you blame Twitter for something you did yourself? You key in the words, you hit post, and you posted it. And then you come now to say it was all Twitter's fault, that Twitter is a very difficult platform, and so you are still struggling to get a handle of it, and you think that that is a good explanation for what you did? Oh, come on. Come on. It would have been way more better to just say something in these lines. When I heard the news of Israeli people being killed by Hamas, I was so saddened. And at that moment, I let my emotions take over my sense of reasoning. And I posted something I shouldn't have done. Because now I realize it was something wrong. And I'm sorry. Simple, very simple.